Former President Trump will be booked and arraigned at the Manhattan Criminal Courthouse today. Sources tell CBS News that the charges are related to falsifying business records stemming from his alleged role in hush money paid to Stormy Daniels following the historic arraignment. Trump plans to return to his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida, where he'll speak publicly. So I want to bring in CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson now to give us some analysis of the case against the former president. Boy, I feel like we've been talking about this since, I don't know, last week when he said he was going to get arrested. But he hasn't. Well, he wasn't last week. He was wrong about the date. So what do we expect to hear from Trump's legal team today? I know that's a hard question to answer because we actually don't even know what the charges are.
We don't know what's in,
Yeah.
Well, so I guess I'll answer it this way. We're going to hear different things inside the courtroom versus outside the courtroom, which is something that we talked about in the aftermath of the 2020 election. Key into what you hear the lawyers say under oath or in the courtroom where they can potentially be punished for misstatements versus what is said outside. And so I think outside the courtroom, we're going to hear more of the same, that this is a witch hunt, that this is the politicization of the legal system, and that we are just weaponizing the legal system inside the courtroom. I bet we don't hear that much. I bet we hear a not guilty plea, and that's about it. We're going to hear, the big kind of reveal today is we'll hear the charges. We think and expect there will be that charge of falsification of business records, but what is that hooked to bring that misdemeanor up into a felony? Is it a state court charge? Is it a state law charge, or is it a federal law charge?
All right, let's talk about sort of the logistics of today, Jessica. The judge, as you know, denied several requests to have cameras in the court for today's hearing. Is that unique to New York State? Is that unique to the situation? And does that, what does that mean overall? I know what it means for the media. We obviously want to be there, but what does it mean as far as a legal strategy is concerned?
So I think it means that this judge doesn't want the courtroom turned into more of a circus than the courthouse already will be. And we know that this is a judge-dependent decision at this point. We know that judges across the nation in different courtrooms make different decisions for their court and for particular trials that are happening in their court. Some judges feel that this is a people's place, that this is our courthouse, and that we need transparency and that we need to learn about what's happening. Other judges feel like it just turns their courtroom into a theater, into a stage, and that everybody's playing for the cameras as opposed to just conducting the business of what today is going to be, which is the charges will be read, the former president will plead not guilty, and I don't think this judge wants this to be any more of a spectacle at this point than it needs to be. I think it's an indication that if this is the judge, and assuming it is, who oversees a trial, if and when a trial happens, that judge is not predisposed to allow cameras in the courtroom for that trial either.
So speaking of the judge, what do we know about the judge? He's previously heard Trump-related cases before.
So we know that the judge has heard the case dealing with Alan Weisselberg, who, of course, was the CFO of Trump Organization. He pled guilty to certain financial crimes. We know that the judge has also been involved in some of the Steve Bannon litigation. In reading biographies of the judge and reading up about what people say about the judge, they tend to say that he's very no nonsense, that he likes to run an efficient courtroom. He has experience as a prosecutor, I think both on the state level and on the local level. And at this point, we don't know more. And frankly, I don't expect more from this judge this morning other than something that's frankly almost as short as this segment. I think it will be, here are the charges. Wow. What do you plead? Thank you.
So let me ask you about the notion of the mugshot, Jessica. Is that something, I know that oftentimes white collar criminals, for example, might not necessarily be handcuffed, but everybody in New York, whether you're rich, poor, whatever your ethnicity is, you are arrested, you get a mugshot taken.
I'm curious about that because I had heard that he may not be getting a mugshot because everyone knows what the guy looks like. It's not like you need it for identification purposes. But I also thought it was just a way of keeping track of stuff.
Yeah, and would that be a deal made between the former president's lawyers and Alvin Bragg, or how does that work?
So, the answer is yes. And I said this, and I think I said it to you. I said, so the mugshot will be taken because that is the way it typically happens. And what we talked about is that there are typical steps but they will look different. I had honestly thought that they would go through that step. They decided not to because I think they decided that there was no value added in this case. Now, to the specifics of your question of who made that decision, it had to be a decision between, I believe, former President Trump's attorneys and the New York District Attorney's Office. We know that there have been a lot of discussions between the Secret Service, NYPD, the former president's personal attorneys, and of course, the prosecutor's office. None of that is typical, and they're coming to agreements and arrangements that if you or I were ever facing an indictment in New York, we would never get those sort of concessions. And we understand why. There are real security concerns here, and we are dealing with a historic first. I think for all of this, what we'll have to make sure is that even when there is different treatment, there is still equal justice under the law.
Right, and so that sort of like, it's not just the fingerprints, it's, I mean, don't they collect your DNA? I mean, there's a whole process.
Yeah, biometrics or whatever
everything
they call
that they do, because it's, as you said, Jessica, everybody is under the law. No one is above the law. So we'll see. I mean, we're kind of speculating. Some people are saying there's not going to be a mugshot, but we don't really know. All right, Jessica Levinson, always great to have you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.